We're back again talking about the referees. We're back again with people complaining about the referee, and we're back again after a grand final where people are throwing out the name of the referee as the reason to why a team lost. I do streams every single day. I do streams across all different sports, whether it be baseball or rugby league or AFL or football or anything, and we always have people blaming the referees no matter. So I knew we were going to be here regardless. Hey guys, how you going? So today on BK Sports, we are going to be talking about the NRL Grand Final. Obviously yesterday we saw the Penrith Panthers go down to the Melbourne Storm in the ultimate game of rugby league. Final scoreline being 26-20, but in reality that wasn't really how the game went at all. I know that the Panthers came back and flew home in the end, but that wasn't how the game went at all. The Storm absolutely dominated throughout. They were up 26-0, and yes, the Panthers did come back in the end, but we're not here to talk about the game itself, guys. I'm not going to be reviewing really. Well, I guess this is still going to be a review of the game-ish. Like, if you guys want to see my reaction to the game, you can go and look at the live reaction that I did. This is more going to be about the fact that everyone's blaming the referees. You know, again, it's always the way. It's always the referee's fault. And this year, I think it's been very predominant. Now, look, just want to preface this, I majority of the time don't agree with the referees. Majority of the time I do think they do a bad job, and majority of the time I do think that they make really boneheaded, nonsensical calls that make absolutely no sense, don't get me wrong. And mainly this comes in rugby league. Like I said, I watch all sports, and I can tell you right now that I truly believe that rugby league has the worst officiating of any sport in the world, hands down. But let's get straight into talking about last night's performance. Do I think the refereeing did impact the game? At times, yeah. Look, that's a question that you've really got to bring in here, because in that first half, the Melbourne Storm got a lot of penalties. At one stage, it was like 4 or 5-0, whatever it is. Now, I'm one of the type of people who say just looking at a penalty count doesn't mean shit. You know, they could genuinely have given away 5 penalties, and that's the thing. Like, you can't just look at a 4 or 5-0 penalty count and be like, they're getting an advantage. You know, the ref's cheating, because that's not how it works. You know, there is genuinely going to be penalties, and you may not get a penalty. Like, it's just fair enough. So you can't just look specifically at a penalty count and say it's unfair. If you watch the game and say that, you know, a lot of those penalties probably shouldn't have been penalties, then yeah, you can say it's unfair. And I'm going to say a couple of the penalties to start off with were pretty dubious. You know, they were pretty dodgy, and I didn't agree with them. But to throw this one straight out there, you know, the referee's not the one letting the holes through the line. You know, the referee isn't the one defending, and the referee isn't the one allowing them to score the try. Whether the referee makes a bad call or not, yes, it gives them the opportunity, which they shouldn't have had, arguably. However, you've also got to realize that your team also did give up those points. They do have the ability to give up those points. So even if they don't get that opportunity, and I guess you're going to argue that the Panthers could have gone up the other end and scored. However, the Panthers didn't score a whole half. They didn't score for the entire first half. They didn't even score until the 53rd minute or whatever it was. But to specifically refer to an incident, people are complaining about the penalty try to Olam. No. If you think that's not a penalty try, then firstly, you don't have any common sense, and secondly, you don't know the rules of the game. Like, it's obvious. He's putting his foot out, he puts his foot out, and it hits the ball, it takes the ball out of his hands. He was going to score that try. He was literally like this far off the line when he lost the ball because of the foot out. Like, what are you complaining about? You know, what are you complaining about? That's an obvious penalty try there. And just on that, Panthers fans, you should probably think yourselves lucky, actually, because if that isn't given as a penalty try, and they say that Olam might have gone out or he might not have gotten the ball down, then that's a sin bin for 10 minutes. I'm telling you right now, I'm preferring taking those 6 points right there than I'm preferring to give away a man for 10 minutes against the Storm in the grand final, especially with how they played in that first half last night. So straight up, that is a try, a penalty try, and there will be no arguments about it. Not only does it come under common sense, but it also comes under the rules of the game. And I dictate there is 2 different things here, because we will be talking about common sense and rules of the game in just a moment. Next up, let's talk about the Panthers no try. Now, this one is a little bit controversial, but in the same sense, I want to say and I want to stress that I thought at the time, just like a lot of people, I thought at the time that this was a try. And I thought it was the wrong call by the bunker. I thought that really there was no advantage gained from it, and Branko Lee had made the decision to tackle him, and I thought that it was a decision by Branko Lee. But I've actually gone back and had a look at it. I've gone back and had a look at it, slowed it down, and really, Branko Lee's looking over here. He goes to turn around to come to the players, William Kikau, and I think it's Mansour on the left-hand side edge. which Brenko Lee turns his head, and as he's turned his head to here, he's then hit by Crichton coming at him. So he actually doesn't make any decision. The decision is by Crichton to come into the line, and Brenko Lee, as he's turning, is then impacted, which pushes him back. And Kikau catches the ball on the outside of the shoulder. So in reality, that shouldn't constitute as an obstruction because it has to be on the inside, and we will get to that too because there is something that comes up later. And then he passes the ball to Mansour, and you would think normal try. But if you go and have a look at that, Brenko Lee doesn't get the decision. He doesn't have the ability to make a decision to go for Crichton or to go out to the wing. And because he wasn't able to make that decision, he's not able to go out and prevent the try because the impact with him and Crichton is quite severe. You know, it is a solid impact, and he does get bounced back over here. So that clears up the space for the Panthers to score. And in reality, I look back at that and I'm like, well, I actually think that's a no try. You know, looking back at it, I genuinely believe that's a no try. I'm not going to get really into specific nitty-gritty areas of the first half in regards to a few penalties. Like I said, I do think a lot of the penalties in that first half were dodgy and were dubious, but we're not going to get into the specifics there. You know, I'm just going to say overall, I thought the refereeing performance in that first half was pretty shocking, I'm not going to lie to you, but I just think that the bunker made the two correct decisions in regards to the two big calls in that half. Second half, and I think the big moment that everyone talks about is the Panthers try. So, you know, for me, why are Panthers fans complaining? And I'm not saying all Panthers fans, there are some good ones out there. There's obviously good and bad a part of every single fan base and supporter club, so don't think that I'm specifically ragging on Panthers here because I just know that majority of rugby league fans have also come out specifically about this try, and it's a bit of a divisive topic. Now, I have a bit of a controversial opinion about this because for me, I agree with the bunker. I actually agree with the bunker here. And like I said, I don't usually agree with the bunker. I don't usually agree with the referees. I usually think they're a bunch of dickheads. But in regards to this game of the bunker, not the referees were shit, but of the bunker, I genuinely think that they made the right decisions across majority. I'm pretty certain, unless I can't think of one, they've made the right decision for me. But the reason I agree with the Brian To'o try is because I think it comes under common sense. You know, under the actual technicality ruling of the rule book, you know, under the rule book, you can't run behind a player and take an advantage from it. Yes? Correct. Okay, so under the rule book, yeah, he does kind of run behind his player and then he kicks the ball away. Now, Gus Gould or somebody was saying in the commentary last night that he kicks the ball because of the fact he ran behind and knew he did wrong. No, that's not why he kicked the ball. He kicked the ball because there was no winger out there and To'o was out there, so kicked the ball through and he scores. And what does he do? He scores. I don't know where that kind of brought liability in. But the reason why I think this is a try, because one, that doesn't impact anyone. It absolutely impacts absolutely no one. And it is actually debatable whether he actually, like, he does kind of like, look, the players, let's put here for example, and he's kind of here. He came from here, he's kind of like here. So technically he's behind the player. Now, it doesn't impact, there's no players even looking at him. It doesn't have any kind of actual factor on the game itself. It doesn't have any factor. So an example that I'm going to give here is that a lot of the time when there's a broken down play, right? So we're going to be a technical rule book here. This is what majority of people are arguing. So, and I understand why you're arguing it. Don't worry. If you're going to go by the actual rule book specifically to the T, then yes, it's a no try. But the reason why I think common sense has prevailed here is because a lot of the time you'll see when a play is broken down and like there's a pass that's gone astray, you've already seen the lead runners go out of line, right? You've already seen the lead runners go into the line. Now, technically, you want to say that they've gone behind the player because this guy, he wasn't given an advantage whatsoever from this, all right? So remember that. He wasn't given an advantage whatsoever by the slight run behind of his player that doesn't impact. So we go back to the broken play where, say, the dummy half, say up beside Cottercell, gets the ball back and Cleary is there, but the ball has gone down. The ball has hit the ground and Cleary's facing the back and then he turns around, right? So you're telling me Viliami Kikau's already run through the line and then he decides, let's dart all the way out here and make the pass. If you're going to go by the technical rule book, that's an obstruction because he's gone behind his player. He hasn't taken advantage from it. He's 15 metres behind where Viliami Kikau was running. But technically, he's run behind his player. In technical terms, he has run behind his player. Yeah, his player's 15, 20 metres in front of him, but like, he's still run behind his damn well player. So they're both the same in the sense that neither one was advantage taken. Neither one actually gave an advantage in that situation. So why is this one that nothing happened from, was not impacted, and had absolutely nothing to do with the actual play itself? The Storm players knew it, and they tried to utilise it to their advantage because they knew they had no winger out on the edge. I just don't understand the difference. Why? Is the reason why, because Nathan Cleary goes and passes, he goes behind because he's 15 metres behind the player, so it doesn't impact. So what you're saying is he didn't take an advantage from that, right? He didn't take an advantage from the Viliami kick-out run, and this is a thing that didn't happen. I'm just giving you an example. You know, so Viliami's kick-outs run out, so he hasn't taken an advantage from that at all. But Isaiah Yeo didn't take an advantage from what happened as well. So I guess you can come down to the fact that luckily the advantage wasn't taken from it, but in the same sense, like, if nothing was wrong with it and nothing actually nonsensical happened from it, then why can you take it away? Like, it's just circumstantial. So for me, I agree with it and say that it should be common sense in that situation. I know that does open it up to a bit of a situation where it comes down to more context and it comes down to more opinions when it comes down to the video refs, which is the only problem I have with it. The only problem is that if this is given as a try, then basically it's always going to come down to whether the video ref has a belief of the play being impacted. So although I agree with the try being common sense and being the right decision, I also think that it does set a dangerous precedent that we could see video refs making a opinion-based decision rather than a factual law-based decision on this. So, you know, I can argue for both sides here, and like I said, technical rulebook, common sense, I think the right decision was made here, but I can understand both sides. Final thing I want to say is, I see a lot of people out there complaining and blaming Melbourne Storm here. You can't blame a team for a referee's performance. You know, they still went and scored the tries. They still had pretty decent defense. Like, let's be straight here, Panthers. You had an opportunity where it was like 4-on-1 down the left-hand side and you still couldn't score. You know, you didn't score at all in the first half there. You didn't score until the 50th minute, and then you didn't score, you scored 2-3 tries in the final 10 minutes of the game. But I just think this grand final was shit house. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, I think the worst grand final I've ever seen was 2017 between the Storm and Cowboys, but I think this is by far the second worst grand final I've seen in a very long time. I hope that it really hasn't been influenced by the final 10 minutes for a lot of people. You know, if you want to have a good time and say that it was one of the greatest grand finals you've seen because of the finish, then that's cool, but that 70 minutes was absolutely diabolically shit house. It looked good for the first 10 minutes and then completely died. It's like 2017, and arguably kind of like 2015 in the sense that the only reason people actually think that was a cracker game and one of the best games of all time is because of the finish, because it was a shit house 70 minutes as well. But in the same sense, at least that one had an absolutely insane finish. The best finish of all time, 2015. But yeah, that's going to do me. I think the referees were shithouse on field, but I think the bunker probably made the right decision for me. And I think for Panthers fans, you need to realise that your team is going to be here for quite some time. You know, they're young, they're inexperienced. Like, I know that Panthers fans didn't really understand what we were talking about. Everyone was talking about for a very long time their inexperience in finals. This game showed just how inexperienced they are in finals. You know, that's great that they beat the Roosters by 1 point, and that's great they beat the Rabbitohs by 6 points, but they're still inexperienced in finals enough that they were down 26-0 to the Storm, and they had to rely on the Storm giving away 2 players to actually get back in this game as well. So although that doesn't really reflect anything, you know, they did do that. Panthers fans, don't be too upset. You're more than likely going to be there next year. Well, I hope you are there next year. I hope you are. Maybe Panthers Titans. Cheeky. But that is going to do me for today, guys. Go and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. In the next couple of days, we're going to be bringing out an NRL grading system for all different teams, all 16 different teams. Also, we're going to do the AFL as well for all 18 teams. But I'm going to sit back and I'm going to grade every team's season this year. Don't forget, guys, smack that thumbs up button. Got a second channel, BKR Travel, that you should subscribe to as well. That is all about stuff that isn't sport and traveling and movie reviews and stuff like that. So go and subscribe there. But I'm going to jump off for now. Appreciate you as always. Congratulations to the Melbourne Storm. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.